Last week you saw me pull my Z apart, take out the transmission, remove the clutch, and then I ordered a new one. Now, the new clutch is here, and today we're gonna put it in and drive the car. It's a beautiful day in the garage. I'm very grateful for that. Right here I have my old clutch, and right here I have my new clutch. And today I'm gonna put in the new clutch. Now that's gonna be complicated, more complicated than taking it apart, because before the steering rack was not connected, and I have to figure out how to get the steering rack connected, which has always been a little interesting, finagling that together while you're raising the subframe up. But let's try.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Sipping on the potion, all that good emotion, just my kind of heat. Keep it on repeat.
Now here's the difference between the clutch that I just took out and the clutch that I'm putting in. So both clutches are a twin disc setup, but the old setup has two individual thin hubs, and this originally had teeth on it that made contact with the input shaft on the transmission. I believe the hubs on these discs are giving out one at a time because they can move separately. But this new twin disc setup I just got has one large single hub, and because it's one single hub that's thicker than both of the hubs from before, there's a lot more surface area making contact with the transmission's input shaft.
Like a centerfold. Ooh, that sugar sweet.
With the new clutch installed, I'm moving on to putting the transmission back in. This turned out to be a real pain, and I don't know what was keeping it from going in. So I just had to take a break for a few minutes because I smashed my finger trying to get this transmission in there, and I was so filled with rage that I had to just take a break and cool down. The transmission is like this far away from the mount on the back of the motor, and I cannot get it to get any closer, and I can't get any of the bolts to start to thread. It's about to drive me insane, but I'm about to give it another go. And this finger is throbbing with pain. I was trying to use the drive shaft to press up into place under the car, and I smashed the drive shaft into my finger against the transmission tunnel. Oh man, said a lot of not nice things after that. This is how close the transmission is, but it will not get any closer, and it's about to drive me insane. So I actually started to get some of the bolts threaded, and I was able to reach in from the top and put in some of the upper bell housing bolts. I got it in. Then I came down here to the bottom to finish off connecting the transmission back to the engine. I needed a longer extension in order to get some of the upper bell housing bolts. Also pretty sure this is the reverse light sensor, and that wire has broken off, so I'm gonna need a new one of those. Then I'm getting the drive shaft bolted back in. I just realized that the fact that the transmission is in gear and the e-brake is off and the wheels are off the ground and I'm able to tighten these bolts and the drive shaft isn't rotating means that the engine is solidly connected to the transmission, and that's good. We're about to be able to drive this thing. So with the drive shaft bolted back in, we can move on to the steering rack. So that entails this sliding into that as we go. Okay, so this is how we're sitting right here. The edge of that will not slide in there. I don't understand why. I'm about to go get the keys to the Z so I can unlock the steering wheel and try to spin it around. All right, so somehow there's a more significant issue. I cannot turn the steering wheel more than this. And it's like, this has barely slotted in there, but it's in there. But now the steering wheel is unlocked. You can see you got quite a bit of range of motion, but this will not turn for anything, and there's nothing blocking it. Why can't everything just go together smoothly like it's supposed to? Okay, so I found the issue. It's like this knuckle has gotten mangled and it bumps into itself and then it can't turn. Okay, so I think I actually found more of the root of the issue. So right here, you can see the shaft that needs to slide up into there is poking down into the middle of the knuckle, and that is what is causing the knuckle to get mangled. So I'm gonna try to take this bolt a little loose and then tap that from the inside and see if we can get it to slide up into the shaft more. Okay, so I did it. I got the knuckle loosened over here and slid that up some, and then I got the knuckle loosened over here and I slid it back this way, and then I hammered that up in there so that it gets more up into this thing, and now it can freely rotate without bumping into itself. So now I can rotate this with no issues. The steering is in. Incredible. Now we just bolt in the bracket for the transmission, and then we bolt in the subframe, and then we put the exhaust back in. Then I take a shower so that I'm not like this inside of the Z, and then we drive the Z today. Jumped ahead a little bit here, but I got the exhaust back in and it was a pain. I got the car back on the ground, and now I am putting in all of these interior pieces that attach around the shifter, and then I'm about to take it for a spin. I'll just see if this thing even still starts. Totally forgot there's no brake fluid in here. Now this was the first red flag about the brakes. All right, topped it off with brake fluid. Attempt number 2. It just hasn't been started in a few weeks. This is normal. The fact that the brakes were still floppy, this was my second red flag. It still had plenty of fluid, but the brake pedal was pretty much going to the floor and barely doing anything. I badly wanted to drive the car since I've got the new clutch in, so I was just like, I'll be careful. Here you see the brake lights flashing, and that's me pumping the brakes, trying to get the pedal to build some pressure. Yeah, the last time I drove a manual was this car like 2.5 years ago. Also, the belt squeals when it's cold, but when it warms up, it stops squealing. Brake pedal super floppy still, so just gonna check and make sure there's brake fluid one more time. There is, so I'm gonna send it. Would you look how beautifully that new ramp I just made is working? Yeah, I'm still not used to this clutch. It's a heavy clutch, buddy. I keep stalling it. Oh my god! Woo! Let's go! shaking after driving just a little bit. The brakes barely work at all. There's like an air pocket in the brake line or something. I topped it off with fluid because it was completely empty. I think the brakes need to be bled, but I like have to pump them over and over to get it to kind of start working, and then I'm just barely able to stop in time. It's super sketchy. Holy shit, this thing's crazy.